Good day, everyone. It's great to see so many faces again and a warm welcome. We trust that you will find the webinar today very insightful. The webinar today is all about employee support and development. Just some administrative arrangements again, I think most of you know by now, but you are currently on mute. That's just to allow the presenters to present without any interruptions. Towards the end of the webinar, we will allow you to unmute yourselves, and then you're welcome to participate live in question and answer session. If in the meantime you do have a question, you're welcome to pop it in the chat. One of the Shadow Match team will attend to your question. Alternatively, we'll collate the questions towards the end and then present the questions to whoever needs to answer that specific question. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be doing, my name is Lizette de Villiers, and I will be doing the first part of the webinar, more about the theory and the thinking behind why do we need to look at developing our employees and supporting our employees through development. And then the second part of the webinar will be the system application. And then I will hand over to Susanne Conradi, the General Manager at Shadow Match, and she's going to take what you learn about the theory and show you how you practically apply that using the Shadow Match system. So without further ado, let's start, because I'm also sensitive of the time. Let me just share my screen. Maybe you can just show Susanne, can you see? Great. Ladies and gentlemen, employee support and development. So the discussion points this afternoon, we're going to look at targeted development. And as I go through the slides, obviously we will look at the detail. How do we address business challenges by means of development? And how do we use development to make sure that we have a business that's sustainable and that continuously grows? We're going to look at progress, stagnation, sustainable growth, development content. What do we use as content for developing our employees or our people in our business environment? PDP, ladies and gentlemen, that's the acronym for Personal Development Program. So I'm going to use PDP mostly throughout the discussion this afternoon. So PDP is the Personal Development Program, and the application. How do we apply and use the personal development programs in specific areas in our business? And Susanne will also then show us practically the things that I discussed with you in terms of the PDP application. How do the PDPs work? Just more practical, how are they designed? How do they work? How do we use them? The role of a mentor in the whole development process. And then lastly, the practical system application. So ladies and gentlemen, if we look at targeted development, very, very important. Development cannot be a one-size-fits-all approach. If we follow a one-size-fits-all approach, ladies and gentlemen, we end up with a one-size-fits-none. Why? Because we cannot look at development as something that is generic. If we just follow a blanket approach and we hope we hit someone, if we send everybody in the sales department on sales training, or we send everybody in our customer service department for conflict handling training, then it's a hit and miss, because most people might not need that specific training. We cannot follow a generic approach and then think that we are actually going to develop people and help people to grow. Development always needs to be targeted and specific. It needs to be specific to the individual, and it needs to be targeted, whether it's targeted to the department, yes, targeted to the specific department where that individual works, but also targeted specifically at what are the development needs for that individual, because a one-size-fits-all ends up in a one-size-fits-none. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we can use development to address business challenges. Development programs must always have business value. Now, it sounds like that's a logical statement, but ladies and gentlemen, very often we don't do any development in our business, or we just do development because we want to tick a box to say, yeah, we are looking after our people, we are supporting them, and we are developing them. A development program that we use to grow an individual must always have business value. It must be targeted at the person in his or her job, in the role that they currently fulfill, or maybe in the role that they are going to fulfill in future if we look at succession planning, or we look at promoting or redeploying people in the business. But more than this, ladies and gentlemen, a development program is not always necessarily business content. We want to develop the individual as a person. We want them to grow personally. Let me give you an example. In our business, for example, a lot of our people don't do business-related development programs. They go for pottery classes, they go for sewing classes, they go for cooking classes, they learn to speak a foreign language. Now, how does that relate to the business, and how does that add value to the business? A lot, ladies and gentlemen, because if I develop myself as a person, I feel that I can add meaning, I feel that I grow, I feel that my self-worth is good, I'm a happy employee in the workplace, and indirectly that all contributes to being a successful and a productive person in the workplace. So development programs, no matter what the program, must always have business value. Ladies and gentlemen, development programs can address certain business challenges. I'm going to explain this by means of an example. If our business is currently operating at this level and we want to take the business to the next level, we can do that by means of development programs, and we can do that by means of putting the entire business on exactly the same development program. If we look at the Shadow Match development programs, problem solving is one of the development programs in Shadow Match. If we want to take the business to the next level, we can put every individual in the business on a problem solving PDP, personal development program. How will that work? Remember, it's the same PDP, problem solving. However, if I work in finance and I do the problem solving PDP, I'm going to go to my job in my finance department and I'm going to identify problems and challenges that I need to resolve as part of my development journey. If Suzanne works in the operations department, she's going to take the problem solving PDP, she's going to go into her job, into her role, and she's going to find problems and challenges that she needs to resolve to make her job better and to help her division grow. So although it's the same PDP, every individual individualizes that PDP, and throughout the business, every person looks at problems in his role, in his direct department that needs to be solved. And we then lift the business because we solve problems throughout the business. Now, you might be wondering, why do I have pills and capsules as a photo on my slide? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to use an analogy. If we look at a broad spectrum antibiotic that is used for respiratory infections, there's one goal. We want to make patients healthy and we want to recover ill or sick patients. So if I have a patient with an ear infection, I give that patient a broad spectrum antibiotic for respiratory disease. If I have a patient with a sinus infection, I give that same broad spectrum antibiotic. I have a patient with an upper respiratory infection, I give that same broad spectrum antibiotic. I have somebody with a sore throat or a laryngitis, I give that same broad spectrum antibiotic. So it's the same antibiotic, but it has different functions. It heals and recovers a patient with a throat infection, an ear infection, a sinus infection, an upper respiratory infection or disease. So my goal is I want to have healthy, recovered patients. I use the broad spectrum antibiotic. That's exactly the same in the business, ladies and gentlemen. We do collective business development with diversified content. So I use the problem solving PDP, but in every division for each individual, that's going to be an individualized PDP. I have one goal in mind. I want to make my business more successful. But the problem solving for me and for Suzanne and for Peter and for Ruzan and for everybody else in the business will have a different meaning, but we work towards the same goal, a healthy, recovered, optimal business. So that's very important, ladies and gentlemen. And so we can use resilience, for example. We can put the entire business on a resilience PDP in tough times like we currently have. If we work in a legal division, we can put the entire division on a conflict handling PDP. So we can decide what's the business challenge, what do we want to address collectively, and we can then choose a business or a divisional personal development program. Ladies and gentlemen, what's progress stagnation? A flatline business is a dying business. The world is currently moving. Technology always evolves. If we as a business stays behind because we do not develop our people, our biggest asset, our people, we are going to stagnate and we're going to end up with a flatline business. And ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, a dying business. We need to ensure continuous and sustainable growth. How do we do this? Sustainable growth, ladies and gentlemen, is the function of three primary factors. We have to, in our business, have a product that is leading edge. We can compete with our competition. We have the best product. Our processes need to be slick. Our processes need to be automated. Our processes need to be accurate. We need to have optimal processes. And then thirdly, we need people. We need the right person in the right job. Last week, we had a webinar about optimal placement. If you missed that, ladies and gentlemen, please go to our YouTube channel, Shadow Match. Find the webinar and listen to that recording. Because if we don't have the right person in the right job, we're actually going to struggle with our process and our product. So the purpose of today is let's focus on people. Yes, employee support and development. Why focus on people, ladies and gentlemen? Because it's people that enable processes. It's people that innovate and that come up with ideas and then ensure that we take our product to market. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if we think development, we think sustainable growth, the next question is, but what do we do in terms of content? What are the content we need to develop our employees and to develop our people? Now, firstly, ladies and gentlemen, we need to make sure that our people are equipped with knowledge. They need to know how to do the job. In other words, what's the product? What's the process? What are our business values? How do we go to market? What's our marketing strategy? All the nitty-gritties and the factual side of the business, the know-how, how to do my job. So that's the first part of development content. The second part of development content, ladies and gentlemen, is skills. I need to have the skills to do my job. If I'm a manager, do I have the managerial skills? Can I perform a performance discussion? If I work in sales, can I do a sales presentation? Can I negotiate? Negotiation skills. If I work in admin, do I have the necessary skills to do the administrative tasks that are part of my job? And then lastly, ladies and gentlemen, do I fit the environment? Do I have the behavioral patterns to do my job successfully and optimally? Now, those of you that joined us last week will know that I spent some time on this, and I'm going to share that statistics again, ladies and gentlemen, because it's quite scary. When we look at the research around people who resign, only 10% of people resign because they didn't know how to do the job. In other words, they lacked knowledge to do the job, 10%. 20% of people resign, and when they interview them, they say, you know what, I never felt like I'm capable. I never felt like I have the right skills. I always struggled with the presentations. I always struggled with X, Y, and Z. Only 20%. 70% of people who resign say that I didn't fit the environment. And obviously, ladies and gentlemen, not necessarily in these specific words, but if you do research and you start to analyze the data, it boils down to the fact that they never felt that they belong. They always felt that they are a misfit. They always felt that they just cannot do as well as the others because something just didn't gel well. Now, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this scary statistic. Although only 10% of the job success is built on knowledge, 20% on skills, and 70% on fit, behavioral fit. What do we do when we do training and development? We spend 90% of our budget, 90% of our training time, maybe sometimes even more, on teaching people knowledge, teaching them about the product and about the process in a classroom environment. We never pay any attention to, does this person actually fit the role? And how do I help them fit the role to become an average to a top performer if they are currently not performing? Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's where the Shadow Match development programs come into play. The development programs focus specifically on number 3, the fit, to teach people the behavioral patterns of the top performers so that they can easily do their job and perform in their current role as well as in future roles. Now, the personal development, the PDPs, where do we use the PDPs? Ladies and gentlemen, firstly, if I employ a new person in my business, in my division, in my environment, I've obviously matched that person to my top performer benchmark. Most of you are clients that are currently using Shadow Match, so you know the benchmarks. We spoke about that last week. So I have a benchmark of what's the profile of my top performers, what's necessary in terms of habits, behavioral patterns for success in this environment. So if I now get a candidate who applies for a job, I match the person, good match, I employ the person, I can immediately put that new employee on a personal development program. How do I know which one to choose? The system will show me. One of the critical habits or the lowest habit, so that that person immediately in the new role starts to learn the behavioral pattern that is necessary for success and to be as successful as the top performers. Poor to average performers, ladies and gentlemen, I can match them against the benchmark and immediately see where do they lack certain behavioral patterns. Because that might be, and it's probably 99% of the reason why they are struggling to perform. Let's start with development. Thirdly, if I redeploy somebody, and I know Suzanne is going to show you all of these applications on the system. If I redeploy somebody, I take them from a customer service environment to a sales environment. Yes, I need to teach them the product. I need to maybe teach them some technical skills. But I have to look at what are the behavioral patterns that I need to teach them and help them develop to be successful in this new role. The same with succession planning, ladies and gentlemen. And then lastly, business development. I spoke about business development when I used the example of the problem-solving PDP. If I have a division in business, because it can be a divisional development as well, if I have a division in business that is stagnating, they always lag behind, they're very resistant to change, they never do new things, they are really actually lagging behind in everything. I can decide to put the entire business division on a propensity to change or an innovation PDP. And I can do that with a click of a few buttons. Quite easy. Suzanne is going to show you how to do that bulk request for PDPs for a large number of people. How do the PDPs work? Ladies and gentlemen, these PDPs are experience-based learning programs. Now, they are not something that I do in a day. I don't go to a classroom session for 2 hours and voila, I've got the PDP of resilience and I never give up again. Unfortunately, and also fortunately not, ladies and gentlemen, it's experience-based learning. So it means that I get the PDP and we're going to show you how the system works. Once I've got that PDP, I physically have to go and do things to develop a specific pattern in that area of behavior. Now, the PDPs work on the principle of repetition. And ladies and gentlemen, if we want to learn a new behavior, and if we want to become successful and reach a goal, 4 things need to be in place. Firstly, I need to set myself a goal. Then I need to, the actions that I perform towards reaching that goal, I need to experience as successful. I need to repeat those actions over a period of time. Let's use an example of losing weight. If I want to lose weight, I set myself a goal that I want to live a healthy lifestyle and I want to lose weight. Now I start eating a healthy diet, I start exercising, and 2 weeks down the line, I get on the scale and I say, sharp, I've lost 1.5 kilograms. So immediately I start to feel successful because I'm starting to work towards my goal. I've already lost some weight. So I've had actions, I've eaten healthily, I've exercised, but I have to repeat these actions over a period of time to reach my goal. The PDPs work exactly in the same way. So they will continuously take the individual into their working environment, into their life, to do things over a period of time, repeatedly, to reach that specific goal. And in this case, the goal is to build a pattern in a specific area of behavior. They are work specific, ladies and gentlemen, although it's a template, in other words, everybody gets a problem solving, it's the same phases and the same steps. But because I am going to work in customer service as a call center agent, the way I'm going to interpret those phases and the way I'm going to engage with the PDP is completely different to somebody working in sales or in finance or who's on the executive team. So it becomes work specific and individualized. It's virtual, ladies and gentlemen. In times like these, you don't have to meet face-to-face. It's facilitated via the Shadowmatch personal portal and email. Suzanne will illustrate and demonstrate. The PDPs have phases. 3 to 6 months, ladies and gentlemen. You can't do phase 1 and then say, phase 2 looks a bit tough to me. Let me skip to phase 10 and then come back. The system facilitates the phases and you work with a mentor. A mentor helps you reach the outcomes. A mentor walks this journey with you, and a mentor makes sure that for every phase, the outcomes are reached and whatever questions there might have been are addressed. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, mentors. I've referred to mentors just now. An individual that does a shadow match personal development program does that in conjunction with a mentor. The mentor is somebody that guides, that listens, that's a soundboard, that ensures progress and ensures completion. Now, I think the first question is, where do we get these mentors? Ladies and gentlemen, there are two options. Firstly, you can appoint mentors internally. It's a wonderful opportunity, again, for people to develop in the business. Now, if I'm the individual doing a personal development program on conflict handling, it doesn't mean that my mentor must be a very good conflict handler. My mentor must be a good mentor. They don't have to be strong in conflict handling. And the system, the shadow match system, gives a guide that helps the mentor understand what are the critical requirements and things that I should do as a mentor. So we can appoint mentors internally. If we don't have capacity, our business is not large enough, an individual can choose an external mentor. Follows the same process on the system. That's up to the individual to choose. As I said, there's a guide that comes with the mentor pack to help the mentor understand, what do I do as a mentor? And then lastly, ladies and gentlemen, a mentor ensures progress and completion. A mentor is never late. A mentor never cancels a meeting. A mentor always helps the mentee or the individual to reach the desired outcomes and to reach the goal of embedding this behavior so that it becomes a pattern. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I'm going to hand over to Suzanne to show you this practically on the system. Please, you're welcome to start, write down your questions, put your questions in the chat, or just keep your question until the end, and then you are welcome to ask questions. Suzanne, thank you very much. I'm going to stop my screen share, and then over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lizette. Thank you for the very insightful presentation. And then good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, from my side. It's lovely to see you all again this afternoon. So just as a standard introduction, today I'm going to work with fictitious data in a fictitious company. I'm going to be logged in as a company system administrator. So that means everything I'm doing on my side, you yourself will be able to do interactively live on your side with your employees' own data. So I'm going to show you the standard system functionalities, but obviously you can then apply and set this up according to your organization's unique needs. Okay, let's jump in and let me start sharing my screen. Okay, so once again, I'm logged in as a system administrator for company Z. Okay, if I go into the company, I see the various business areas that they have created on the system. And today I just want to start where we ended off last time. So I'm going into the specific area of customer support, and we're just quickly going to look at that benchmark again. So Lizette also referred to this, but what is our benchmark? Our benchmark is the map of the specific intensities of all of the habits that are functional towards success in this specific role. So our unique insight into our context. And this is now specifically for customer support. They've identified the people that are top performers, performing well in this job in their specific unique context. And now we have the map. Now, once we have that map or the benchmark, we can now start comparing. And today we're focusing on our employees. So the individuals already working in this specific role. So I'm going in my left main menu, I'm going to focus on this group here, the employees. Now currently we're looking at customer support. Now the first thing I want to show you is that unique development path that each individual gets or is crafted for them automatically on the system. So each of these individuals are now currently in this specific role. So we're just first focusing on, I'm in a specific role and how am I supported and developed in the role that I am currently working in. And how am I supported uniquely according to my development needs. So if we look at one individual, let's take this individual here, Sharon. If we go to her results graph, so this is then the benchmark of that specific role. And then the graph that is in red and orange and yellow, that is the individual's specific unique habits. If I scroll down and I'm going to click this button here, I'm going to be able to request her development programs. quickly just want to show you one thing here you might have missed before if you just quickly scroll through this page. At the bottom, it actually already shows you what is the first recommended PDP for this individual. So now for Sharon, we see this, altruism. And if we go to the PDP page, the system will automatically highlight the recommended PDPs that would make sense for this individual to develop for this specific role. So what do we see? We see altruism and people positive is highlighted and it's shown as recommended. Now, if I'm a different individual working in that part, it's going to show me something different. So let's go back to our employee list. I took a look at Sharon. Let's look at Troy. If I go to Troy's results page, close that side menu for us, scrolling down, and now what do we see? A different recommended PDP at the bottom. And if we go to his request PDP page, you see different ones are highlighted. Here we have discipline as well as resilience. So that's what Lizette referred to. It's not a one size fits all because my specific habits have a different alignment with what is expected of that unique context. And now we can ask Troy to develop this specific behavior. So let's actually go and practically request a PDP to show you how easy it is to do it on the system step by step. So I'm going to choose resilience. That's the recommended PDP. And now the system opens up this screen. Now remember, I'm completing this as the system administrator, and I'm now requesting one PDP for one individual, specifically resilience for Troy in this specific department. At the top, it gives me an explanation of the content of this program. What are we working with? We're working with resilience and a lot of detail there. But now it starts to ask me to complete this form. Now you first see there's an option here to complete the details of the manager. Now this is to support this individual embarking on this development journey. All that the manager will receive is a notification to say this individual has started this development progress. Please support him and be aware. So the manager doesn't have an operational step in this, but it's a nice awareness to say, I see this employee is developing himself or herself in this specific area. So let's just complete, let's put in my details there and say I'm going to be the manager. Okay. There we go. Okay, now we're scrolling down. Now we get to the important part. We now have to choose the mentor. And as Izet said, we can now either choose someone internally or the individual can choose themselves. Here we have the two options. If I select this one, you see the little block disappeared because now the individual will be able to put in the details they prefer. If we say this individual, Troy, can choose his own mentor, whoever they prefer. If I say I'm allocating a mentor internally, I then add the mentor's details. So let's say it's going to be Mrs. Mentor. There we go. Obviously, this is a fictitious person. And let's say it's mentor@gmail.com. Great. So now we've requested this. Just to scroll up, Troy, resilience. We're going to notify the manager. And the mentor we've allocated is this person here. The last thing the system is asking me is which format or type do I prefer? So now we have screen-based, paper-based, or the individual can choose between the two. Now the screen-based is the best preferred option. Then you get all of the great automation functionalities, the seamless virtual support. The mentor can actually sit anywhere in the world and help facilitate this process. And everything is actually mobile friendly as well. So it's facilitated via emails on the individual's personal portal and the mentor's personal portal. We'll see that Nana. And that then all happens automatically. If, however, there is a specific requirement where the individual does not have access to internet connection or to a device where he can access his portal on, there is a paper-based format where the individual will then receive it in a PDF format that can be printed out and he works through the phases. But obviously in that scenario, we would need face-to-face interaction with the mentor. Both choices, we recommend the screen-based one. At the bottom, it then asks me the type of PDP. Now, if we click on that drop-down list, you'll see there are 3 different options. So the system has specific content according to these different types. So you'll see there's general, student, or sport. The general option is the standard option that encapsulates most of the development. So within a business or for personal development, if you are specifically working in a learning institution or an academic environment, you can request the student PDP. And if you're specifically working with athletes or a sports team, you can choose the sport PDP. The content of that PDP is the same, but the wording is different to say it uses different jargon. The student with the teacher, the sport with the athlete with the coach. 99% of the time, you probably can keep it on general. Okay, the moment I click submit, okay, great. I should maybe just put in my correct email address there. But the moment I click submit, it's going to request this program for this specific individual. Now, if what we did now is we looked at an individual that is working in a specific role and we're supporting him in that specific role. We can also do this day one if it's a new employee to say, let's look at that match and understand what are the challenges going to be, what is the specific development programs we can focus on day one to help craft that individual's path from day one. Okay, the next option is if we want to redeploy. So let's say we're taking individuals who's working in this specific environment, and now we want to see, listen, if we redeploy her, can we then see what the development path will be for that specific individual? So now I'm going to use Amanda's result here. And once again, I'm clicking on her result as my starting point. And if I scroll down, you'll remember this button from last week. We click on multi-match. Now it's multi-matching this individual to all of the other benchmarks on my system. So now I have the context of each of the habit profiles of these specific roles, and it's comparing this individual's unique profile to each of them. And now we can see, look at here, what do we find here? We find very good behavioral matches for the individual according to the context. Now here we have the customer support supervisor if we want to promote her to the next level, or if we want to redeploy her into a different area, we can click on this match. And if we now compare to this, we can then see, okay, what is the specific development program for her in this specific area? Okay, let's see, that was for redeployment. Now the last one is, what if we're focusing on succession planning? So if I go back to my company detail here, and I say, I want my next supervisor, I want to identify and start to develop the specific supervisor we're earmarking. I go to that specific department, I go to the benchmark, same as last week, and now we multi-match from my benchmark to say, help me identify these individuals that are a good match against this specific benchmark. So at the top right corner, I click on multi-match. And now I see all of the individuals within the business, or we can choose within a specific department to develop them. Why I'm showing you this again today is to see now for the succession planning development path. I know, so listen, I see Christopher here is a very good match to my supervisor benchmark. Let's start that development journey. We want to appoint him in 2 years' time, in a year's time. Let's start that development journey, and where should we start? If we click on this button here and we scroll down, I'm now going to see what are the recommended PDPs for this individual compared to this specific benchmark for supervisor. And then we see those recommended PDPs and we know we should be focusing on this development first, and we're empowering the individual and we're empowering our next supervisor in that specific role. We've now looked at how to request it for an individual. But what if we're not working one by one by one? What if we want to request it in a larger format? On the system, there's a bulk option as well. So I'm now just going to click back to my home screen. And let's just deselect Christopher. We don't need his results anymore. Now I'm asking the system to let's request a bunch of PDPs at the same time. And I can request this specifically according to my needs. Where do I find this? In my left main menu here, I click on the PDP option here. It opens up my bulk PDP request screen. Now remember what I said, this is the standard system function. You choose the preference according to your unique requirements in your company. Let's look at what the system gives us. The first option is, do you just want to automatically just focus on the employees? So we're developing the specific employees in the company. We're not focusing on the resigned individuals or the individuals that were applicants. So it automatically filters my search in a clever way. So let's select that and say, okay, I'm just going to focus on my employees. Now I can either request this in my entire entity. So meaning company-wide, business-wide, if you want to put everybody on the PDP, I can request it there. Click that button and we're going to select everybody. Today, I'm going to work in a specific department. So I'm going to choose this one here, sub-entity. And let's say I want to focus in sales. Now I've chosen sales, and the moment I click add, it's now the system now found all of the individuals working in sales that I've identified that are going to start on this PDP. So now I see here on the right, I've selected 7 individuals. And if I click there, I can view who they are, but I automatically have everybody in my sales department selected. I can obviously also do this on individual format from here. So if I'm searching for specific individuals across the business, I put in their details here and they add it, and with one click, I can then request it for all of them. We selected the individuals in sales. Now we scroll down. Now the system asks us, please select the PDP type. So same as we saw last time, we're going to be working with general. The general PDPs, fantastic. Which format do we prefer? We prefer the screen-based format. The third thing it's asking us is, please select the specific PDPs. Now look at what happens on this drop-down list. I have 3 options. Either the individual will be able to choose from all of the PDPs, so all 20 of the programs, which are all 19 of the habits, as well as time management, or I choose specific PDPs, or the individual only sees their recommended PDPs. Now, if my business mandate is we're focusing on specific behaviors that we want to develop across the business, I can now guide the system to say, only include these specific programs for the choice on the individual side. And you'll see now what it looks like on that individual's personal portal. So let's say today we want to do that. I'm going to say, please let me select the PDPs, and my referring to me as the system administrator. I've chosen that option, and now I should actually choose, okay, but which of all of the PDPs should be included in the choice that the individual will receive on their side? So let's say through our discussions, our development planning, we decided we want to develop discipline, let's say innovation, problem solving, and to simplify. So now only these 4 programs will populate on the other side, and they'll be able to request from these 4 options. Obviously, we can only select one to say everybody does problem solving, everybody does innovation. For our demo purposes, I've requested 4. Third step done. Last option, now we get to our mentors again. So now we have to select the mentors, drop down list. Which one do I prefer? Do I, as the system administrator, choose the mentor, or does the individual choose their own mentor? Let's say I'm choosing the mentor, and now we need to add a mentor again. So let's put in my details again. Ooh. There we go. Go, and we add. Now we have the complete picture here. Let's just quickly recap. We've selected our individuals, the specific individuals, either the entire entity or just the department, or specific individuals across the business. Today we've selected the individuals in sales. Fantastic. We've selected a general PDP type that is screen-based. I've selected 4 specific individual programs that are going to be part of this choice. And I've selected the mentor, and I've added 1 mentor to this choice. If we've identified various mentors, every time I click add mentor, I add another one to the list, and we'll then include that list. But I know you can follow what I'm doing here. So let's for today see what happens if we click submit. So now it shows me if you want to confirm this request, it's notifying me of what is the information that all of these individuals are going to receive. So all 7 people we've identified in sales, they're going to receive the following email, all of the information about the PDP. We'll look at that now. I can always add an extra message, and the moment I click confirm and send PDPs, they will receive that invite. Now, I'm not going to request that live. I rather want to show you the one I've already requested, but you see this is the bulk format, and we easily request it in any format that we need according to our unique needs. Okay, so we've done individual, we've done bulk. What happens if the individual wants to request it from their side and it's not you as the system administrator requesting it on their behalf? Then they can go to their own personal portal and request it live there. So what I'm doing is I'm logging out. I'm no longer the system administrator for this company. I'm now going to log in as one of the employees within the company. Okay, so let's see here. Let's choose this one. Let me just find my correct one here. I have a few different portals I want to show you. This is the one we're starting with. Okay, so remember I'm logging in as an individual, an employee within a company. I have access to my own personal portal. At this stage, I am Kathy. So Kathy Rogers has access to her personal portal. And if she goes to this tab here in the top menu, the personal development section, it's going to open up the following screen. She can now, in her own capacity, no one requested it from the company side. If she instigates the process, she has access to all of the programs on the company side here. And she can request it straight from here to say, I'm going to choose propensity to own in my individual capacity. So those are my various options of requesting the PDP. Let's go and revisit a portal if we've already requested it on the individual's behalf. Then it's going to automatically show the options that we preferred, as we just did in our bulk thing, to say, show them that specific program that we identified for that individual. So now I'm logging out of this individual's portal and I'm going into a different portal with an individual already with a request. So let's use this one today. Okay, so same story. I'm logged in as an individual to my personal portal, but this time I'm Chris. And if I now go to my personal development page, look what I see. I only see the following 4 programs, and I see I have already been invited by someone. So the system administrator invited me to embark on this development program, and I now need to choose one of these 4. So let's say I'm going to choose problem solving. I select this one, I say accept invitation. I already received my invitation. And now, because the system administrator preloaded the mentors, I can choose from this drop-down list here. So do you see the difference, ladies and gentlemen? Either I would have a blank screen where I put in a mentor's detail, anybody out there, or now I choose from the identified mentors within the business. So I'm going to choose Fred and confirm. And now the system is just asking me, are you happy? Are you sure? These are all the correct options. Problem solving, Fred is your mentor. It's screen-based, it's general, fantastic. The moment I'm happy, I click confirm. Now my PDP is actually open. So a system administrator requested it for me. I logged in, I accepted that request, and now I can actually start with a PDP. So if I start with the PDP, it's going to open up the first phase. And now I can work through each of these phases. It starts with an introduction. I just quickly want to highlight something for you here. There's notes for the mentee, for me as individual, and then there's standard guidelines for the mentor. So this is what Lizette referred to say, if we're identifying internal mentors, we're helping them to develop even though they're not going to be in a development program, to develop the experience and the skill of being a good mentor. So there's guidelines for the mentor, and the mentor will also have it on their side to say, how am I supporting an individual going through this journey? Okay, I've seen the individual's portal. What about the mentor? How does that work, and what are the resources they have? Once again, gonna log out, and let's log back in. So what am I doing now? I'm logging in as an individual that has been assigned as a mentor for specific individuals going through their own PDPs. I'm going to my same personal portal. And I actually, at this stage, quickly just want to show you one of the emails. All of these things are facilitated via email, and it would always have a link. So if my mentee has completed a phase, so let's say the individual, I was just in Chris, he did problem solving, he submitted phase 1, so he captured everything on that side and he clicked submit. The moment he submitted, I received this email here saying, your individual, the person you are mentoring, has submitted a phase for his PDP. Please go and review. So it's no need to log in and see, how is it progressing? You'll always be kept in the loop via email. And in my email, I'll always have the correct link in it. So let's use the link. The link is going to take me to that same page, to the login page, and I now put in my own details. I'm now the mentor, logging in. I go to the same screen, but you'll see on my personal development, I have two things. I either can request my personal dashboard where I can request my PDPs if I'm also embarking on development. But yeah, I have a complete summary of all of the individuals I am a mentor for. So here we see, okay, Barry is currently on problem solving. He's currently busy with this phase. Is there feedback outstanding? Yes, there is feedback outstanding. So what should I do? I can view this individual's PDP to submit my feedback. My other mentee, Terry, no feedback. I'm up to date. He already submitted. I already gave my feedback to him. If I want to submit my feedback, I click on view. And now I see on my side what this individual has completed. So the phase they completed on their side, and you'll see this is obviously now fictitious, just filling data, but I'm not able to edit this. So I can't overstep that boundary to say I'm doing the work for the individual. The individual did the work. He submitted his content. I only get in at this stage to say, let's submit that feedback and help to guide him on his journey. Let's just say I put in the feedback of what he learned in this phase, the recommendations for the next phase. And if I then click save and submit and confirm, my mentee is going to get an email saying your mentor has given you feedback. And now I can see I'm up to date. Everything is requested. The last portal I just quickly want to show you is what does that unique differentiated content look like? So you remember Lizette referred to, even though I'm working on problem solving, the content will be unique according to my specific environment and my specific needs. So let's log into this individual's portal. Same story, logged into the portal, going to personal development. This is now the Barry guy we just saw on the other screen. I just quickly want to show you one of the phases. He currently did phase 10, but let's have a quick look at what happened in phase 8. In one of the previous phases, he needed to submit for problem solving. There's a whole introduction of what this phase is about, but the thing I want to highlight to you is his task. It's find an example in your world of working, studying, playing, or living that are typical of each of the problem categories. So do you see now, if the problems in my own environment, the role I am in, is very complex, the interaction with this PDP is going to be very complex. But if the problems I am currently have access to are at a less complex level, then I'm going to engage at the level I need to be engaging on. So I'm working with my unique tailored content because it's going to be in my specific world of work. And my specific world of work is different to any other individual also doing phase 8 of problem solving. But our PDP is not going to be the same on the other side. Okay, we're done now with all of the personal portals. The purpose of that was just to show you, how does the portal look if I have that request? What does it look like if I'm busy with a program? How does the mentors portal work? But the essence of it is it's all facilitated on that personal portal with emails, and it's actually mobile friendly. So it's very quick and easy. Whilst you're sitting on the Gautrain train on your way to work, you can submit that feedback to the mentees and it's sorted. The very last thing I want to show you, and we're going to go back into our system as a system administrator, is how do we track this entire process? If I, as a system administrator, want to keep tabs of what's cooking and who's on which program and how are they progressing, there's a very nice function. Let's just log in. Okay, so we're back in Company Z. I'm now once again the system administrator. Today, I want to show you the export for the PDP. So in my left main menu, I have this button here, Export Data. And today we're focusing specifically on this one, the PDP progress. Now we did this in a previous webinar when we did system enhancements, but today I'm actually going to show you the content of that export. What I'm asking the system now is, please give me a consolidated report or spreadsheet of the entire picture of development that I want to look at. So do I want to request it in the entire company? Then I'm going to get all the data, or do I just want to request it in a specific department? So just in sales. Whatever the mandate was and what my purpose was with requesting the export, the system will assist me in this. Today, I'm just going to request it for the entire company. I can then choose which are the specific fields that should be included in the spreadsheet. So everything from the individual's name, obviously, what PDP are they working on, the number of phases, where are they currently, who is the mentor. So if I choose that and click download, it's downloading that export for me. Let's see what is actually in that export. So this is now an export of obviously a fictitious company again, but I quickly just want to show you in a nutshell what you see. So we have all of the details, who are the individuals currently on PDPs, when did they start? Some of them have already finished. What PDP are they working on? Obviously the type, has it been paused? And then who is mentoring them? What is the active phase they're currently working on? And how many phases are there in total? So we see, okay, currently on 6, only 7 phases, so they're nearly finished. And is the mentor on track, or is there feedback required from their side? You see how easy it would be to track this entire process. So if you're using the personal development programs as your development process within the company, everything from start to finish is supported by the system. From identifying it in an easy way, in a tailored way for each individual or across the company, all the way to actually then summarizing and tracking it to see, okay, what's currently cooking, who's on which program, and where should we check in? Who of the mentors we should remind to check in with their mentees. Okay, great. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this stage. Thanks, Azette. That's all from my side for the system steps. Over to you again, and let's see if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Suzanne, and well done. I think that was a very good walkthrough and a very nice methodical way of doing it, and nicely, touched on all the aspects and how to do all of it. Thank you very much. I think very valuable, definitely something that will help users and people working on the system to utilize it in the right way. There were a couple of questions, Suzanne. I'm not sure who followed the chat, so I'm just going to deal with some of them. If you, in the meantime, keep your eye on the chat, I'll be grateful for that. Thank you very much. So there was a question about, is the PDP on the results page the recommended one? Ladies and gentlemen, yes. What the system does is the system obviously takes the benchmark, and then when you compare an individual to the benchmark, the system looks at where is the biggest gap between the individual and the benchmark. In other words, where is the individual the lowest compared to the benchmark, and that will be the recommended PDP. It can happen that 2 PDPs are recommended, and that will the second PDP under recommendation will always be then time management. So either the system looks at the overall match, in other words, all the habits, and sees where's the biggest gap between the individual and the benchmark. And then if the time in which the individual completed the shadow match worksheet is not in line with the benchmark, the system might recommend time management then as a second PDP. So that's how that works. And the system doesn't just look at the critical match, ladies and gentlemen, it looks at all the habits, also looks at time management, and then it recommends the PDP that the individual should embark on. Important thing, ladies and gentlemen, and we've had this in the past with companies, although the system recommends a PDP, it's still a consultative process. So as the system administrator or the HR person or the manager of that individual, you need to sit with the individual, and it needs to be a conversation and a deal decision. I can't just tell somebody you have to do this PDP, because development will only take place if there's buy-in. So I need to have a discussion with the individual and say, if we look at you compared to the top performers, or if we look at you compared to the team leaders, and you are in line to become a team leader, what is the development area that the system recommends? It might so happen that the individual says, no, I actually want to do leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, then in that discussion with the individual, if they are adamant that they want to do a specific PDP that is not at that point recommended by the system, our advice normally is let them do that PDP that they want to do, because development will then take place, because they already want to do that. And then go into a negotiation with the individual and say, okay, if you've now completed the leadership PDP, can we then negotiate and say your next PDP is then resilience, or the one as recommended by the system? So that's quite an important thing. Remember, it's not a one-sided decision. The development that needs to take place is an individual thing, and the person needs to be very comfortable that what they're going to do is what they want to do, and they need to have buy-in in the process. I think that, and there was another last question I had, Susanne, that I want to address, and then I'll hand back to you if there's a question that you want to address. What if we don't have internal mentors, and what if the individual says, but I know nobody that can help me as a mentor? Ladies and gentlemen, then you're welcome to contact the Shadow Match office. You can send us an email at info@shadowmatch.co.za, and we can put you in contact with mentors. Obviously, you need to understand that if the person chooses an internal mentor, there's no cost to it. But if the person uses an external mentor, and it's not a pastor or a brother or a manager in another company, but it's somebody that we recommend, that's not going to be a free of charge. There will be a cost to that, because obviously the mentors that we recommend do that for a living. So I think that's just one comment I wanted to make, that we can help, but it's obviously not going to be as cost effective as the mentor choosing somebody or using somebody internally. Susanne, before I hand back to you, I just want to, I see there were some questions, so I think you might have prepared for that. So thank you, Susanne. Then.
Great, thanks, Azette. Just a quick note on the recommended PDP question that the person asked. It's the one there at the bottom of the results page. Just quickly want to show you something again on the system. We did this in the first webinar, but if I request an export and I'm not using the PDP one, I'm using the standard shadow match data, I then have the option to request the recommended PDP column for all of these individuals. So that can then be step one to say, if I'm planning the development program and I want to see the holistic picture of everybody in Company Z and their recommended PDPs according to each individual in each role, this is actually a very nice start point. So you just remember about that export, that you have that recommended PDP option there. Lizette, the questions that came in whilst you were presenting, and thank you, Peter, I see you gave feedback on it as well there. So Monique asked, mentors normally ask how much time they will need to give the mentee. And then the other one is, how many times do the mentor and mentee need to get together on a monthly basis, or just as they complete a phase? Now, Peter there commented that it's about 45 minutes every second week. So you'll see the starting phase of the PDP. The mentor and the mentee decides on what is the pace we're going to follow. We recommend 2 weeks per phase. That gives enough time to complete the content of that phase with everything else on that individual's to-do list, their job, their personal life, and so forth. So 2 weeks is a very comfortable time to complete the content of it. And then every second week, that phase is then submitted. If you're using that virtual format, you submit it going through that content, and that's what Peter referring to there. It's a quick view at that to work through the content and give the feedback. If you want to pair this with an interaction, remember the feedback doesn't just have to be the verb or the written feedback. It can still be a contact session, even though you're using the virtual format. You do a virtual contact session then to unpack that content and do an active mentor phase of that. And then you can decide what is that time, but that's a good guideline that Peter presented there. I don't know, Lizette, if you want to add anything to that question, or Monique, if you're happy, just tell us if we need to address something else in that.
Sunny, thanks. I see Monique says thank you. Just two more comments, ladies and gentlemen. I do see that it's on the hour 4 o'clock in South Africa, so we are almost done. And then those that want to stay on are welcome. We'll formally end the webinar before we allow for those that want to stay on to still ask questions. Just one comment from Melt. I think, Melt, that was a very valuable comment towards the beginning of your session, Suzanne, is that the mentor needs to ensure that there's action. So, and I think you saw that in Suzanne's demonstration. There's things need to happen before the mentor can give feedback. So it's not just a thinking and talking and pie in the sky discussion. These sessions and the role of the mentor is to ensure that the mentee actually completes the phase with the feedback, and then the mentor gives feedback before they go to the next one. So the part of the role of the mentor is to ensure action and that things are actually happening. And then there was a question from Suzelle regarding the time frame in which you can request a PDP. Suzelle, I think I'm standing under correction. I think it is actually still 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why you can only request another PDP in 6 months' time is because habits don't just develop like this, and behaviors don't just change like this. So when somebody does a PDP, even if the PDP is only 3 months in time duration, they need some time for that behavior pattern to embed, and that new behavior to embed and become part of their natural way of doing things before they request another PDP. Somebody can't just do 10 PDPs in a year, because then development is not going to take place. You'll remember that there's a goal, there's actions, it needs to be repeated over a period of time. And we've set the settings on the system to say 6 months before you can request a next PDP. So I think that is still the case, Suzanne, and that's the reason why there's a 6 months process. Thank you. I see that you've got that. I am now just for the sake of the time, and I see there's some more questions which we will address quickly now. Ladies and gentlemen, just in conclusion, before we stop the recording and then continue with questions, there's a next webinar next week on the 16th of September. That's all about team optimization and the success of teams in business. So it's the same time, same place, as I said. We've got a couple of other webinars coming. I'm going to share my screen for one moment. I just want to show you where you can find it for those that might have not seen this previously. So if you go to, now I just need to move a few things around. Give me a moment. So if you go to Shadowmatch, you will see on the Shadowmatch landing page, there's events. So if you click on events, it will open up all the upcoming webinars. And you will see there that we've got a webinar next week. We've got a webinar next week, Wednesday evening, about non-academic career options for your child. So it's not just system webinars. If you go to this, you can see the career coaching webinar coming up. Under events, we will continuously post the upcoming webinars. So please go and have a look there. We don't always necessarily communicate every week via email, because that also becomes too much, but you will always see the new webinars and the events listed on the Shadowmatch calendar on the Shadowmatch landing page. Ladies and gentlemen, just for purpose of the formalities, thank you very much for joining. We hope to see all of you and many more next week at the team optimization webinar. Please stay on and you're welcome. I'm going to let you unmute yourself and you're welcome to ask some more questions.